Alright, listen very carefully. In this video, this is the most crucial part that you must always get when it comes to future value, right? Now here we're discussing the changes in payment and the changes in interest. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to read the instruction and I give you a method of how you can basically analyze this. So let's go ahead and read the instruction and get right into it. Alright, now Coach Bull here makes the following deposit over 10 years. 1,000 Rand per month for the first 6 years starting immediately, 700 Rand per month at the end of each month for the next 4 years, right? Now the interest rates are 14% per annum compounded monthly for the first 5 years, 9% per annum compounded monthly for the next 5 years. The question is, how much money will Coach Bull have at the end of the 10-year period? Now, in order for us to understand all of this, the method for you to understand or to use is going to be a timeline, right? So let's go ahead and draw our timeline. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to draw our timeline from year 0, or from when the savings account was opened up until when the period ended, right, which is year 10. Now, please make sure that you listen very carefully because this is very important. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually take everything that we're given here and then put it in our timeline. So the instruction here says that Coach Bull was making a deposit, right, starting immediately, right? And then when he started immediately, for the first 6 years, he was depositing 1,000 Rand. So now I'll assume that this is year 5, and then I'll just put in here as year 6. So now from year 0, right, there was one payment made, and then after that we continued with more 1,000 Rand payments made up until year 6, right? So we know that here X, I'm just gonna put it in here at the top, X is equals to, let me just write it here, X payments, they are 1,000 Rand, right? Now this includes also that one because that is also the 1,000 Rand, the immediate payment. And then now it says now for the next 4 years, Coach Bull started depositing now 700 Rand per month. So this then means now the next part, it is, let me try and use a different color, that way you don't get confused. And then the next 4 years, the payment here was 700 Rand. So let me just put it right here. It is 700 Rand. All right. Now let's talk about the interest, the change in interest. Now the change in interest, they said that the interest was 14% per annum compounded monthly for the first 5 years. So which means that we will say here the first 5 years. So I'm going to put in 5 here. Between here and there, let me just do it like this. Between here and there, the interest was 14%, right? And then the compound was 12 because it was happening monthly, right? And then the last 5 years, it changed to, let's see what it changed into. So it changed into 9%. So M was still 12, but then the interest became 9%. Now the question is, how much money will I have at the end of the 10 years? Now to understand this, right, you need to know that this is going to be multiple future values. Now how do we then determine these multiple future values? So this is how. So what we're going to do is, to get our answer, first thing that I need to do, I need to calculate the future value from when the savings account was opened up until when there was the first change, right? Now, in this period, right? So the first change that happened, it happened in year 5. Now, what happened there? Now, what happened here, we had a change of interest. The interest was 14%, but then now it changed to 9%, right? So which means now here, in this part, we're going to calculate our first future value. So I'm going to put it as F1. Right, and then now right after that, because of now this change, it means now we had another future value. Now where will be our another future value? So another future value will be where we started the new interest. So it means I'll start it right here, and then where there was another change. So where did another change occur? So it occurred right here. So I'm just going to do this and then put in there because that's where another change occurred. Now what will be that change? That's when now the 1,000 Rand was no longer in, and then we started putting in the 700. So it means now this is the second future value, right? Second future value. And then from there, what happened? The future value, the rest, it just grew up until the end, right? So it means from here up until the end, there was no change. So this is our third future value, right? So that is what we're going to do here. Now, notice something here, right? So when there's a disruption, right? When there's a disruption in the future value, for example, the first part here, when there's a disruption, this money doesn't stay there, right? This money, what happens is, if you're not withdrawing it, it will continue to compound, but it won't be now using a future value. It will compound using what? Using a compound interest. Same applies with this second future value. Once there's a disruption, it will also compound according to a compounding interest using the remaining period of that deposit period, total period of the deposit or the savings account, right? So now to answer this now, this means now from here, we know that once we get our future value, right? Because that's the first thing. The first thing is we're going to calculate what is the future value here, second, and then future value there, and then future value there. Then after that, we'll check what amount will this first future value compound into, right, up until the end of that year. And then we will also check what amount will this second future value compound into up until the end of the period. Now notice that we can't do that for F3 because this is where the period ended, right? But if there was an extension, then we're gonna do the same thing for the third future value. So let's go ahead and answer this question. So we're saying now the steps that we're gonna do, knowing that we have everything, the steps we're gonna do here is number one, we're gonna calculate future value 1, where before up until when the first disruption happened, then future value 2 when the second future value happened up until where the second destruction happened, and then the future value 3, which is where it started up until the end of the period. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so now here I'm just going to use the color that I used to describe the future value 1 to calculate future value 1, future value 2 to calculate future value 2, and all of that. All right, so now future value 1, what do we have there? So here we have x is equals to 1,000, right? And then now here we have m as 12, and then we have I as 14% over 12, right? And then now here our interest, it is n, right? Now to get n, if you remember, we said n is always the number of deposits that we made, right? Now this person had an immediate deposit, right? So it means now, even though we saw that we calculating from year 0 to year 5, we can still say here we have the number of years, which is 5, multiplied by the compound, which is 12, but then this will then add it with 1, because this one, it tells us that we actually had our first deposit when we immediately opened that. Now by doing this, it gives us what? It gives us 61. Now this then means now our value F1 will then be x into 1 plus I to the power of n minus 1 over I, right? Then now from here, F1 will be 1,000 into 1 plus 14% over 12 to the power of 61 minus 1 over 14% over 12. All right, so now pressing this into our calculator. All right, so now pressing this into our calculator, you can see here that I skipped the part where I pressed. I just showed you the final part, but then this gives us 88,200,73 cents. Right, so now here we have 88,200,73 cents. Let me just double check. Yes, all right. So now this is our first future value. So this means now here, this amount, it grew from year 0 to year 5, right? And then that's where it stopped. But then now what happened after? Then after that, another future value started in. So it means that future value now that started in, it was future value 2, right? Now notice here I haven't actually charged any interest because this money is not withdrawn, right? I'm still keeping it as it is. So now I want you to understand first how do we get our future values, and then from there we're going to apply the interest, right? Okay, so now the future value 2, we see that here the amount of payments here of deposits, it is still 1,000, right? And then here M is still 12. Now the interest here is different because that's what actually interrupted the first future value. The interest here, it is 9% over 12. Now what about N? N is the number of deposits. So from year 5 to year 6, when you're calculating this, it will then calculate this as if it's a 1 year period, right? Because from year 5 to year 6, that's like a 1 year difference. So it means now here, this is going to be, the number of years is going to be 1, and then we're going to multiply this by 12. Now I won't add 1 here because there was no immediate payment on this one, right? The payment started right after the interest changed, right? So the interest started to charge actually after the interest has been changed, right? So it means this is going to be 12, right? Okay, so now to calculate F2 here, I won't have to write the formula again. All I have to do is to actually substitute. So this means now we have 9% over 12 into the power of 12 minus 1 over 9% over 12, right? So now pressing this into our calculator. So what I'm going to do into our calculator, I'll just edit this because I still have the same formula. So I just have different interest, different deposits in that period, which is 12 in this case. And then also I need to remember to actually put in that one. So let me just double check if everything is fine. All right, so put in the equal sign. It is 12,507, 59 cent, right? So here we say 12,507 59 cent. 59 cent. All right, so let's go ahead and look into the third one, right? Let's look at the third future value. Now for the third future value, let me see the color for that. So the color for that is this one. So the third future value, we see now here X is 700 Rand. That's what disrupted the previous future value, right? It was that change in deposits, right? Then now the interest, or well, rather the compound, it's still 12, right? And then from here, the interest, it is 9% over 12, right? And then N here will check the difference between where this feature value started and where it ended. So from year 6 to year 10, the year difference is 4 there. So which means we want to multiply this by 12, and that will be 48. So this then, it gives us our future value. Again, I'm not going to put in the formula again. I'm just going to go straight there to the formula and just substitute my values, right? So 1 plus 9% to the power of 48 minus 1 over 9% over 12. Now let's go ahead and go into our calculator again and just edit what we have here. So remember, now we're changing this, it is 700, and then we're changing our period, which is 48. All right, so double check 700, 9%, 48. Good. So we're getting that. Now this is 40,264 Rand. 40,264 Rand. F3, what are the cents, 50 cent. All right, so now we have all our future values, right? So that was the first step, calculating our future values. Now what is the second step? Now the second step now is we're gonna basically apply interest, right, into the future values. So future values that were disrupted. Now, in this case, which future values were those? So this was F1, right? And F2. Now, how do we apply the interest? So we apply the interest using the compound interest formula. Interest formula. Now notice that here the interest is the same, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to take that future value we achieved here, or we got there, and then we're going to ask ourselves what was the remaining years, right, before the end of the saving period, right? Then we're going to do the same thing for F2 and say what were the remaining years for that. So that will be our N, right? So to do that, I will say, therefore, applying interest where in F1 and F2. So I'm going to take back what I had for F1. So if you remember, for F1 I had the value of 88,200.73 cents, and then from here I'm going to apply the interest in that. So applying the interest is, I'm going to understand what is the F1 new. So what is the new value? The new value for that. So the new value, I'm going to be using the old value as P, right? As P, and then I'm going to apply this into my compound like that. So now to do this, this means now this will be 88,200 into 1 plus the interest that I'm using, because now you're going to be confused. Which interest am I using? I'm using the interest of the remaining period. Now the remaining period uses 9%, right? So let me rather actually put everything in there. That way we don't get confused, right? So here P, it is the 88,200.73 cents, and then I, it is that 9% over 12, and then N, this is the remaining years. So the remaining years, it was 5, but then we multiply this by 12, which means it is 60, because remember, N is not actually the number of years, but it is the number of times the interest was charged. So in a compound, we see it as a number of times the interest was charged, right? So that is why we have that. And then what else do we need? We have M as 12. Okay, so now that's what I'm going to be applying in there. I can see that I don't have space now, so let me rather take this and hide it like that. Okay, so now therefore to calculate my new future value, I will say it's P into 1 plus I to the power of N. Now 88,200 into 1 plus 9% 12 to the power of 60, and then I'm going to get my value. So now I'm going to a calculator. I'm done with using a future value now, so I can close this and then start a new formula. So 1 plus 9% over 12 to the power of 60, because with the 5 years were the remaining years. So here this it takes my money, or my 88,200.73 cents. It's very important to put in that 73 cents. I missed it. Let's see. Let's edit this 0.73 cents. There we go. So 138,094 rand and 21 cents. All right, so this is going to be 21 cents. 21 cents. All right, so now we're going to do the same thing now for the second future value. So for the second future value, let me see which color we had. So we had that color, I don't know. All right, so the second future value, it was 12,507, rands, comma 59 cent. All right, so now in this one, P will be this value, 12,507,59, and then M will be 12. I will be 9% because the interest being charged is 9%. Now 9% over 12. Now to check the remaining years for the second future value, notice that the future value ended at year 6. So the remaining years for that, from year 6 to year 10, it was 4 years. So which means now I'll take that 4 years and multiply it by 12. So that will be 48, right? Then now from there, therefore, F2 new will then be, I'm just going to substitute now because I already have the formula, 507,59 into 1 plus 9% over 12 to the power of 48, like that. And then I'm going to press this in my calculator. All I have to do here is to edit this value, 12,507, 59, and also keep the interest but edit the number of times that interest is going to be charged. Then my value will then be 17,910, 17,910, 3, right? 103, comma 43 cents. Now these are my total values, right? So this F1 new and this F2 new, if you go back into the future value, you will notice that this is the value, that is the total amount that this F1 new is at the end, right? So this is the value that you get now at the end for the first future value that we had, and also as well for the second future value that you had. Now notice that there is also the third future value that you had. So I'm going to put the F3 like that, right? Now all of these values, now to get your total, you need to add all of them together, right? So this then means now, therefore, the total amount that I will have at the end of 10 years will be the first new value, the first F1 future value, which is 138 and 138,094 rand, 21 cent, plus the second one, 17,903 rand, 43 cent, plus the future value, which is the one that was remaining, 40,264 rand, 50 cents. And then I want to add all of this together to get my total amount that I will have end of 10 years, 21 plus 17,903, 43 plus 40,264, 50. And this is going to be my answer. So 196,262 rands, 14 cents. And that is how we calculate this total amount. Now notice that this took longer because it is actually like that. So the nice thing about it is basically you understanding how to draw the timeline. So always make sure that once you draw the timeline of the instruction you're given, and anything after that, you just know that when there is a break, when there's a change of either deposit or the interest, that would mean now you will have to calculate the future value when it started up until before the first change. And then if now you go into the next second part, it means it's going to be the second future value. And then if you experience another change, it means that future value will stop, and then you will start another future value after that. Once you find that, you then now remember that you still have the future values that you left behind, right? Here we left this F1, for example, here, and then this F2 we left it here. So now it means now you need to then apply that interest so that you get into the end of the period of your savings account, and that's the end of this one. Now in the next part, we're going to be dwelling into how you can cover all those present value questions and all those type of scenarios that you might get, and I want to see you into that one. Cheers.